Thank you, Sarah, so much for the invite today to speak. I am so sorry that I couldn't be there in person. My name is Brooke Bullock. I'm a registered dietitian and CEO at Food to Fit Nutrition. I earned my Bachelor of Science in Nutrition from the University of Saskatchewan, and my work experience began in Saskatchewan Health Region in 2009. So I've been in private practice. It'll be 11 years this month. And today the practice is comprised of a team of 7 of us dietitians and a social worker. We have offices in both Saskatoon and Regina, and we support people around the province online. I'm an experienced media spokesperson. I've been enjoying working in the media, whether it's print, radio, television, and writing, freelance writing, really since 2011. I've been featured in a variety of Canadian press, including CBC Radio, the Globe and Mail, Huffington Post, Canadian Living, Chatelaine, Cottage Life Magazine, and Inside Fitness. And I was a regular guest on Saskatoon Global News Morning for about 11 years. And I have done segments on CTV News Morning as well. I am a regular contributor currently for Co-op's Table Magazine and on their food blog. And ultimately, I value the importance of an inclusive practice. So I've dedicated a lot of time learning, listening, advocating, changing systems, collaborating, and giving back to the community. And as a working mom and business owner, I value simplicity and sustainability in nutrition planning, along with a curious and flexible non-diet approach to food and eating. So what is your target audience? And how did you discover your target audience? I didn't know who my target audience was to start. And it's a great place to start if you want, but I would have some idea of who your ideal client is and who you want to work with. This is important because you otherwise become sort of a jack of all trades dietitian. Being a jack of all trades dietitian is exhausting. You're constantly doing research. You're constantly getting to know what chronic conditions are, what the nutrition management for it is, and it's just not really a good use of your time. Ultimately, in private practice, you're predominantly getting paid for face-to-face time. I mean, you do kind of work into your pricing the non-face-to-face time work. So you want to be efficient at what you're doing, and you do want to be very knowledgeable in just a few areas. So over the course of the years, for me personally, it took me a long time to figure out who my ideal client was. Get clear on your vision and your mission and your personal values as like a base, and then start thinking about who do I want to work with and what problems do I want to solve? What are your clients' fears and frustrations, or your potential clients' fears or frustrations? What is the real problem? It might be a perceived problem, but what is their real problem? And what is your solution for them? So in addition to your baseline value, core values, your mission, your vision, your philosophy, you also want to dream up who your ideal client is. Now, my target audience are people who are diagnosed with PCOS of all ages and stages in life. I do a lot with functional gut issues, particularly irritable bowel syndrome, but also things like functional dyspepsia and gastroesophageal reflux disease. And finally, along with PCOS, but not necessarily related, I do a lot of work for people navigating a fertility journey or who are struggling to conceive. So these are my 3 areas of expertise, and honestly, they've come about by need. So I started out as a jack of all trades dietitian. It was exhausting, but over the years, I got to know who I wanted to work with, who I liked working with, and I was getting a lot of requests for irritable bowel syndrome and PCOS. And it just so happens that I decided to really focus on these areas because I didn't feel like there was a huge level of support for this population. Do you need to find a gap in the market? And how do you go about finding this gap? Not necessarily, I don't believe. I think that was always my intention, was to fill the gaps in healthcare. I think that certainly helps. And so if you can see where people are falling through the cracks or see where people are struggling without supports, absolutely, that's an opportunity. You don't necessarily have to find a gap, but one thing you might ask is, how are you different from other dietitians or other providers doing the same work. So what are you going to offer that's going to be different or better than what other people are offering? What are some things that COVID has changed about marketing? For us, not a lot has changed in terms of marketing. Our marketing predominantly is search engine optimization and Googleability. So having a good website, people finding us online, that is our number one way that we market. Over time, we have built this reputation and a good rapport with other healthcare providers in the community. That's just something that takes time. People have to get to know you and trust you, and that's just something that needs to be massaged over the years. And you can start in the old-fashioned way, just, cold calls, cold emails, sending out your business cards, and using your connections that you currently have. Using social media is certainly another avenue where people can get to know you and trust you. I would say social media is not where we predominantly get clientele, but it is up there in terms of why people book in with us. How has COVID changed the way entrepreneurship functions? I would say the number one change is online counseling, and in a good way. We were offering virtual or online counseling prior to COVID to people throughout Saskatchewan, but we would still have people drive an hour and a half or 2 hours to see us face to face. And so COVID really throttled that forward in doing more virtual or online counseling. And I think that really helped the business to continue to grow through COVID. Another important thing to consider is things changed through the pandemic, which means that our client needs changed as well. And so although things in the business and maybe a little bit to do with marketing, but people's lives changed drastically. So you sometimes need to change your messaging a little bit to reach those changing clients. So keeping your finger on the pulse of how people's lives have become more difficult, this can help you in your, say, social media marketing to really create content that's relevant to them. So how and when do you know that your product or service needs to be changed or created? This is a great question. So this is something that every year when I'm doing some strategic planning, and I usually do it sort of at the end of December, early January. This is when I revisit things that I have been doing throughout the year. And I actually keep track, and I go back and track the same markers year after year. So are there products or services that are no longer making money or no longer servicing our clientele? Has the niche changed? Has our target audience changed? If things are just really dying down, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to ditch them, but it just means it's time to reassess. Is this something that I'm still passionate about? Is it something I still want to pursue? Is it worth my time? All of that. I look at the products and services that we want to keep. I look at any possible products or services or marketing that I want to add, and things that I just need to let go of that are no longer serving me or my target audience. And then, of course, looking at goals for that year. How do you create work-life balance? Well, the first thing I always say is that when you go into business of any kind, you are basically looking at, you're basically building a life that you want to live. So you're envisioning every aspect of your life. So it's not just about the money. I mean, that's a huge piece of it. And when you're creating a vision for your next year or your next 5 years, yes, you definitely want to think financials. How much realistically do you need to make? How does that compute in terms of the clients that you need to take in, or what type of client you're going to see, et cetera, et cetera. But it also includes other aspects such as family life. I still make sure that I make the money that I need to make, that I'm comfortable, that I'm investing, that I am looking after my future. But I am so intentional with my time, and it all goes into a schedule. With this planning, I'm also thinking about vacation time. So things that bring me joy in life that have nothing to do with work. And so what are the things I need every day or every week or every year to really fill my cup just as a human being? So when you work in private practice, do you have the same sort of benefits and pay? How do you compensate for yourself? So obviously, when you're working for private practice, when you're starting out, unless you have clients, you're making nothing. So no, you're not guaranteed an income, and this is something you have to build. But again, through that strategic planning, you're going to be figuring out how much do you need to make in a month, and how are you going to do that? What is your plan of action? A lot of entrepreneurs that even as clients that I see don't have coverage, but a lot of them just pay for their own. I pay for my own, my accountant pays for their own. You can get a decent package for about $100 a month. It's interesting because people who work for government positions or paid positions with benefits often think that, oh, it comes with benefits, but you do actually get deducted on your check. It might not be $100 a month, but it might be only half of that, but you're still being deducted for those benefits. So ultimately you are still paying for your benefits. So sometimes you just have to think about things in a different way. What are the pros and cons of not working within the health region? The benefits of not are that the world is literally your oyster. If you are a creative mind, if you have a passion for something you'd like to do that you can't do in a say a government paid position, you can do that in private practice. I mean, obviously within the realm of ethics and SDA's standards. It really is a hub for creativity. And although I predominantly do one-to-one counseling and care, what I love about private practice is that I also get to do public speaking, and I get paid for it. I can do sponsored media. Usually I do sponsored television media, but sometimes social media. I don't have a big enough following to do that really, but sometimes that is a nice artistic way for me to express myself and work with brands that I truly love. I also do some freelance writing, again, for co-ops. So that sort of feeds into my interest in writing. Even though I don't think I'm a very good writer, I'm learning so much just by working with editors. And again, it's just a fun thing to do, and I get paid for it. So I do other media as well. So if I'm asked to do a radio or a television interview that's unpaid, it's maybe an hour of my time, I'm happy to do that. I want dietitians to be in the media and to be present. So that's a huge benefit, I would say. There's multiple ways to make income, and often people in private practice have many income streams. Other benefits to private practice, again, you're building the life you want to live. So you don't have to work a 9-to-5 job if you don't want to. 8 weeks of holidays a year, and I pay myself during that time off. So lots and lots of flexibility there. Bottom line, you need to be having a profitable business, and you want your net profits to be a certain percentage every year. These are things I look very closely at. And bottom line, yeah, I want to pay myself more. So that is always a motivation. But at the same time, I don't want to work more because I want to be at home, and I want to be with my child and my husband, and I want to travel. So I don't burn myself into the ground. Successful marketing strategies that have worked. I would say number one is a good website that is searchable. You've got good content on there. You're updating the content with a blog, and just SEO, search engine optimization, is huge. That's probably the first and foremost. After that, again, just massaging, say through social media, or if you are doing some radio or television interviews, just building your repertoire and your rapport within the community, and also as a referral source from doctors. It takes a long time for doctors to really get to know you and trust you. That has been like one of the hardest audiences for me to massage and work, and for them to really get to know who we are at Food to Fit. But it's starting to kind of come along, and we've got some really great relationships with doctors, and that is something that has just taken time, though. How do you network? There is the Consulting Dietitians Network. There's the Media Dietitians Network with Dietitians of Canada. if you work in a niche area, so I work in, PCOS, so I am part of a dietitian's Facebook group who work predominantly in PCOS. I'm a weight inclusive dietitian, so I've joined the Weight Inclusive Dietitians in Canada Facebook group. There's lots of ways to network. And once you get into it and once you figure out your niche, you're just going to find your people. Do I suggest extra training before opening a private practice? That's a great question. I think historically the consensus was have about 4 or 5 years of public experience under your belt before you start a private practice. And I think the rationale was because you are going to be dealing with complex clients, even though they're not acutely ill. I don't think now that you need 4 or 5 years of public experience, but you do need to be very actively building your knowledge, understanding your client. And I would say, especially working with the public, we know more about it now than we ever have. Definitely not when I started private practice, but this idea of trauma-informed care. People's lives are in your hands and you don't know what their history is. You're really working on your own. So you do have to create those boundaries for yourself and with your clients to create a safe space, not only for your clients, but for you as well. So you need a level of maturity and understanding. I would say it's probably helpful to get some extra counseling skills, cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, trauma-informed care. So what tips can you offer around making marketing decisions? I'm assuming like the big marketing decisions is like using money. So number one, you want to be really clear on who it is you're targeting and why. So know what your goal is. Is your goal to build clientele? Is it to increase repeat customers? Is it to build followers on social media? Is it to educate the public on your profession? Who are you targeting and what is your goal from that? You have to be very clear on that. What sort of hours can a new graduate expect if they do go down the private practice route? This is where it's really important to understand that if you're going into private practice, at the beginning, again, you're starting with zero money, zero income. There's zero money coming in. So you're going to be spending a lot of hours just doing the work, laying the groundwork, thinking about getting clear on your vision and mission. Getting clear on your core values, and you might do some reflective work. What are key words? Maybe that's a starting point. So for example, our key words that relate to our core values are inclusivity, self-compassion, food, peace, curiosity, and anti-racism. So these are core words that really massage the base of our vision and mission. I would say you have a lot of work to do there. Then you have a lot of work to do around setting up a website. Are you going to do this yourself? Are you going to invest and have someone do it for you? That said, you do not have to have all your ducks in a row. You do not have to have a perfect business plan or strategy. It can look like I have an idea. I'm just going to jump in. Like, sure, you can do that. That's what I did. If I knew what I know now, would I do it differently? Yes. But the reason I know what I know now is because of my mistakes. My favorite part of the job. Oh, I love being one-to-one with people. That's where I love to be. I love to be frontline with clients. So I will always, I think, have a bit of my practice as that. I love that I can challenge myself in different ways by taking on things that really make me uncomfortable, like brand work and writing and media. These are things that I enjoy. It feeds into my need for diversity and my need to learn and grow in different ways. I love working with a team. That team is it's so nice that we can rely on each other. And I love being able to come up with my own schedule. I love being able to say like, hey, I need a little extra time off next month. Like I'm feeling a little burnt out and I can take it and I don't have to get approval for it. And I don't have to worry about running out of vacation time. I really love that. Did you feel ready when you graduated to have the job I'm in now as a private practice dietitian? When I graduated, I knew I eventually wanted to be in private practice. And once I went into private practice, gosh, no, I was not ready. I knew nothing and I was terrified, but I thought, well, I'm going to invest. I'm really glad I jumped in when I did because there was opportunity. I was scared and I had no idea what I was doing, but knew I would get there at my own pace. And although I look back and think, man, I should have done it differently, but then I think that would have been at somebody else's pace, and that might not have been the right thing for me. I kept my job with the health region part-time, and as things started to just overlap, then I let go. I took a leave of absence from the health region and then decided, okay, we're going to go 100% all in, and never regretted it. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate being part of this. And if anyone has questions, they're welcome to reach out anytime. Bye.